As the gentle Mediterranean evening settles over the ancient island of Crete, let your mind drift across the wine-dark sea to a time when Europe was young and civilization was just beginning to bloom in the most unlikely of places. Tonight, we embark on a peaceful journey to discover the Minoans, Europe's first advanced civilization, a people who built magnificent palaces without walls, created art of breathtaking beauty, and lived in harmony for over 1,000 years before mysteriously vanishing from history's stage. Close your eyes and allow the soft rhythm of Aegean waves to carry you back 4,000 years to a world of wonder that still whispers its secrets across the centuries. Picture yourself floating gently above the Mediterranean Sea on a warm summer night, the stars reflecting like scattered diamonds on the dark water below. As you drift southward from the Greek mainland, a large island emerges from the mists of time. Crete, the legendary birthplace of Zeus, the crossroads between Europe, Asia, and Africa. This strategic location, blessed with natural harbors and fertile valleys, would become home to a civilization so advanced and sophisticated that its achievements wouldn't be matched in Europe for over a millennium. The Minoans, named after the legendary King Minos of later Greek mythology, flourished from approximately 1300 to 1450 BCE. Making them contemporaries of the pyramid builders in Egypt and the mysterious Indus Valley people we visited before. Yet unlike these other great civilizations, the Minoans developed in splendid isolation on their island paradise, creating a culture that was uniquely their own, peaceful, artistic, and remarkably modern in its sensibilities. Imagine walking through the olive groves and cypress forests that covered ancient Crete, where the air was sweet with the scent of wild herbs and the gentle sound of goat bells echoed across terraced hillsides. The Minoans lived in harmony with their natural environment, developing agricultural techniques that sustained not just survival, but genuine prosperity. They cultivated olives for oil that illuminated their palaces, grapes for wine that graced their ceremonies, and wheat that fed a population sophisticated enough to support artists, craftsmen, and traders whose skills were renowned throughout the ancient world. The palace at Knossos, the crown jewel of Minoan civilization, rose from the earth like a dream made manifest in stone and painted plaster. Unlike the fortified citadels of their contemporaries, this magnificent complex sprawled across several acres without defensive walls or military fortifications. This absence of fortifications tells us something profound about Minoan society. These were a people confident in their security, living in peace with their neighbors and trusting in diplomacy rather than warfare to maintain their prosperity. Step into the grand central court of Knossos, where moonlight illuminates columns painted bright red and tapering downward in a style that would later influence Greek architecture. The walls around you glow with frescoes depicting dolphins leaping through azure seas, ladies in elaborate court dress with intricate hairstyles, and young athletes performing the dangerous yet graceful art of bull leaping, a ritual that combined religious devotion with athletic prowess in ways that still mystify scholars today. The sophistication of Minoan technology rivals that of much later civilizations. They developed Europe's first paved roads, connected their cities with an advanced communication system, and created plumbing that wouldn't be matched until Roman times. Running water, flush toilets, and bathing facilities were standard features in Minoan palaces, while their architectural techniques produced buildings several stories tall that incorporated both functional design and aesthetic beauty. The peaceful nature of Minoan society is evident everywhere in their archaeological remains. Where other civilizations produced weapons and images of warfare, the Minoans created art celebrating nature, beauty, and human grace. Their famous snake goddess figurines, with their elaborate dress and serene expressions, suggest a culture that revered feminine power and divine wisdom. The absence of military equipment in their extensive archaeological record points to a people who achieved security through prosperity and diplomacy rather than conquest and intimidation. As the soft Cretan dawn, Minoan merchants sailed the length and breadth of the Mediterranean, their distinctive pottery and luxury goods found in sites from Spain to Syria. They established trading posts throughout the Aegean islands and maintained commercial relationships with Egypt, Cyprus, and the Levantine coast. Their ships, depicted in colorful frescoes, were marvels of Bronze Age technology, sleek vessels capable of long ocean voyages, carrying Cretan goods to distant markets and returning with exotic materials that fed the island's sophisticated craft industries. The religious life of the Minoans centered around nature worship and feminine divinity, with sacred groves, mountain peak sanctuaries, and cave shrines serving as places of devotion. The famous bull-leaping frescoes suggest elaborate ceremonies where young athletes demonstrated their courage and skill by vaulting over charging bulls, a practice that may have had both religious and social significance, marking the transition from youth to adulthood in Minoan society. Linear A, the undeciphered script of the Minoans, appears on thousands of clay tablets and pottery vessels throughout Crete. This mysterious writing system, predating the Linear B script that would later record early Greek, represents one of archaeology's greatest unsolved puzzles. The symbols, elegant and precise, seem to record administrative information, religious dedications, and possibly literary works that could revolutionize our understanding of Europe's earliest advanced culture if they could ever be decoded. The artistic achievements of Minoan civilization reached heights that wouldn't be surpassed for centuries. Their pottery, with its flowing organic designs and masterful technique, influenced ceramic traditions throughout the Mediterranean. Their jewelry, worked in gold and precious stones, demonstrates metalworking skills of extraordinary refinement. Their frescoes, with their vibrant colors and dynamic movement, capture moments of daily life with an immediacy and grace that makes these ancient people seem remarkably modern and familiar. The mystery surrounding the Minoan decline adds another layer of intrigue to their story. Around 1450 BCE, most of the great palaces were destroyed or abandoned, and the sophisticated culture that had flourished for over 15 centuries simply vanished from the historical record. Whether this was due to natural catastrophe, invasion, internal strife, or environmental change remains one of archaeology's enduring mysteries. The legend of Atlantis, first told by the philosopher Plato, may preserve a distant memory of Minoan civilization's dramatic end. The sophisticated island culture, the advanced technology, the sudden disappearance, all elements of Plato's account find echoes in what we know of the Minoans. While we cannot prove this connection, The parallel reminds us that sometimes myths preserve kernels of historical truth that survive long after the facts themselves have been forgotten. Archaeological excavation of Minoan sites continues to reveal new wonders and deepen existing mysteries. Recent discoveries include elaborate tomb complexes, sophisticated harbour installations, and evidence of far-reaching trade relationships that connected Crete to civilizations we are only beginning to understand. Each new find adds another piece to the puzzle of how this remarkable culture achieved such heights of sophistication so early in European history. The legacy of Minoan civilization extends far beyond their archaeological remains. Their influence can be traced through later Greek culture, particularly in religious practices, artistic styles, and architectural techniques. The classical Greeks themselves preserved memories of Minoan greatness in their myths and legends, ensuring that even after the civilization itself had vanished, its spirit would continue to inspire future generations. As we begin our journey through the world of the Minoans, let your mind embrace the peaceful rhythms of island life where art and beauty were valued above warfare and conquest. Here, in the gentle climate of ancient Crete, human civilization took a different path, one that emphasized harmony, creativity, and the celebration of life's pleasures rather than its struggles. Feel the warm Mediterranean breeze carrying the scent of olive blossoms and wild thyme. Hear the distant sound of craftsmen working in palace workshops, and sense the profound contentment of a people who created beauty for its own sake, rather than to intimidate enemies or glorify rulers. This is the world we will explore together, a world where peace and prosperity created the conditions for human creativity to flourish in ways that still inspire wonder and admiration across the millennia. As the soft Cretan dawn breaks over the hills surrounding Heraklion, we journey to the moment when the ancient world revealed one of its most magnificent secrets. Tonight, let your mind drift to the turn of the 20th century, when a passionate British archaeologist named Sir Arthur Evans first set foot on a mysterious mound that local people called Knossos. Close your eyes and imagine yourself beside him as he uncovers layer by layer the remains of Europe's most sophisticated Bronze Age palace, a discovery that would rewrite the history books and introduce the world to a civilization that had been lost for over 3,000 years. Picture the year 1900, when Arthur Evans, a small, energetic man with keen eyes and an insatiable curiosity about the ancient world, first arrived in Crete with little more than a theory and an unshakable belief that Homer's stories contained grains of historical truth. The island had recently gained autonomy from Ottoman rule, and for the first time in centuries, foreign archaeologists were free to explore its legendary sites. Evans had become fascinated by mysterious seal stones bearing undeciphered symbols that were appearing in antique markets throughout Athens and the eastern Mediterranean. The mound of Kephala, as the site was known to locals, rose gently from the fertile valley floor just south of Heraklion. For generations, Cretan farmers had ploughed around this artificial hill, occasionally turning up fragments of painted pottery and carved stones that hinted at ancient grandeur buried beneath their feet. Some claimed the mound was the site of the legendary labyrinth where King Minos had imprisoned the Minotaur, but most dismissed such tales as mere mythology with no basis in historical reality. Evans approached the site with the methodical precision that characterized all great archaeological pioneers. Unlike the treasure hunters who had previously damaged so many ancient sites, he understood that the real treasure lay not in individual objects but in the story they could tell when properly excavated and interpreted. He carefully purchased the land, hired local workers familiar with the terrain, and began the painstaking process of revealing what lay beneath centuries of accumulated earth and vegetation. The first discoveries exceeded even Evans's optimistic expectations. Just beneath the surface, his workers uncovered walls built of massive stone blocks, their surfaces covered with painted plaster depicting scenes of extraordinary beauty and sophistication. As the excavation progressed, it became clear that they had found not just a building, but an entire complex of interconnected rooms, corridors, and courtyards spread across several acres and rising several stories into the ancient sky. Imagine the excitement in the excavation camp as each day brought new wonders to light. Magnificent frescoes emerged from the earth as if they had been painted yesterday. Dolphins leaping through azure seas, elegant court ladies with elaborate hairstyles and intricate dress, charging bulls captured in mid-stride with athletic grace. The famous Prince of the Lilies fresco showed a young man in a feathered crown walking through a field of stylized flowers, his confident stride and serene expression speaking across millennia of a culture that valued beauty and refinement above martial prowess. The architectural sophistication of the palace amazed Evans and his team of specialists. They found evidence of Europe's first paved roads, sophisticated drainage systems that channeled rainwater away from living areas, and plumbing installations that included flush toilets and bathing facilities centuries before such amenities appeared elsewhere in Europe. The famous Queen's bathroom featured a clay bathtub with running water and elaborate frescoes of marine life that created an atmosphere of luxury and comfort that wouldn't be matched until Roman imperial times. Room after room yielded treasures that revolutionized understanding of Bronze Age Europe. The throne room contained a magnificent gypsum throne, still in its original position after 3,500 years, flanked by benches where court officials might have sat during ceremonial gatherings. The walls displayed frescoes of griffins, mythical creatures with eagle heads and lion bodies that seemed to guard whoever sat on the ancient seat of power. Storage areas throughout the palace contained enormous pottery jars called pithoi, some standing taller than a person and capable of holding hundreds of gallons of oil, wine, or grain. The sophisticated organization evident in these storage systems suggested a complex administrative apparatus capable of collecting, processing, and redistributing agricultural surpluses on a scale that supported not just the palace inhabitants but extensive networks of craftsmen, traders, and religious personnel. The discovery of the Linear A script on thousands of clay tablets provided tantalizing glimpses into Minoan record-keeping and administration. These elegant symbols, pressed into clay while soft and then baked hard for preservation, clearly represented a sophisticated writing system used for religious dedications, administrative records, and possibly literary works. Evans spent decades attempting to decipher these mysterious inscriptions, though their meaning continues to elude scholars today. Workshops throughout the palace complex revealed the extraordinary skill of Minoan craftsmen. Pottery kilns still contained fragments of the distinctive wheel-made ceramics that made Cretan pottery famous throughout the ancient Mediterranean. Metalworking areas showed evidence of sophisticated bronze-working techniques, while jewelry workshops contained raw materials and half-finished pieces that demonstrated the artistic excellence that made Minoan luxury goods prized from Egypt to Spain. The religious areas of the palace suggested spiritual practices unlike anything known from contemporary civilizations. Sacred chambers contained elaborate cult objects, including the famous snake goddess figurines, with their elaborate dress and mysterious significance. The absence of large-scale religious architecture suggested that Minoan spirituality was more intimately connected to daily life, integrated into palace routines rather than segregated into separate temple complexes. Evans's interpretation of his discoveries created the image of Minoan civilization that still influences popular understanding today. He envisioned a peaceful, sophisticated culture ruled by priest-kings who governed through religious authority rather than military force. The absence of weapons and fortifications in the archaeological record supported this vision of a society that achieved security through prosperity and diplomacy rather than conquest and intimidation. The reconstruction work that Evans undertook at Knossos, while controversial by modern archaeological standards, helped visitors understand the scale and grandeur of the original palace. Using reinforced concrete to replace missing wooden beams and repainting frescoes based on surviving fragments, he created a partial reconstruction that gives modern visitors a sense of what the palace might have looked like at the height of its glory. Critics have argued that Evans's reconstruction sometimes reflected his own Victorian sensibilities more than ancient Minoan realities, and that his interpretations may have been influenced by contemporary assumptions about ancient civilizations. Modern archaeologists approach the site with more conservative methods, distinguishing carefully between original ancient materials and early 20th century reconstructions. The discoveries at Knossos sparked a revolution in Mediterranean archaeology. Evans's published reports, filled with detailed drawings and photographs of the magnificent frescoes and sophisticated architecture, introduced the world to a previously unknown chapter of European prehistory. The revelation that advanced civilization had flourished in Europe centuries before the rise of classical Greece challenged existing assumptions about cultural development and the origins of European civilization. Later excavations at other Cretan sites confirmed that Knossos was not unique but part of a broader Minoan culture that included palaces at Phaistos, Malia, and Zakros. Each site revealed variations on the basic palace theme, suggesting a unified culture that allowed for regional differences and local artistic traditions while maintaining overall cultural coherence across the island. The impact of Evans's discoveries extended far beyond archaeology into popular culture and imagination. The revelation of an advanced, peaceful Bronze Age civilization caught the public imagination and influenced everything from poetry to political theory. The image of the Minoans as a sophisticated, artistic people living in harmony with nature provided an alternative model to the militaristic civilizations that dominated most ancient history. Modern technology continues to reveal new secrets about the palace Evans first uncovered. Ground-penetrating radar has identified additional structures still buried around the excavated areas, while chemical analysis of pottery and frescoes provides insights into ancient trade relationships and artistic techniques. Digital reconstruction methods allow scholars to explore alternative theories about the palace's original appearance without physically altering the archaeological remains. The Library Evans established at the site continues to serve as a research center where scholars from around the world study Minoan civilization. The careful records he maintained of his excavations, despite their early date, provide valuable information about contexts and associations that help modern archaeologists interpret discoveries made with less sophisticated techniques. As you drift deeper into this story of archaeological discovery, let your mind rest on the excitement of revelation, the patient work of uncovering secrets that time had buried, and the profound satisfaction of bringing an entire lost civilization back to life. Through careful scholarship and dedicated research. Arthur Evans's work at Knossos represents one of archaeology's greatest triumphs, the recovery of an entire culture that had been lost to human memory for over 3 millennia. Feel the Mediterranean sun warming ancient stones as they emerged from their earthen covering. Hear the excited voices of workers as each day brought new wonders to light. And sense the profound connection between past and present that makes archaeology such a deeply human endeavor. The Palace of Knossos stands today as testament both to ancient Minoan achievement and to the modern passion for understanding our shared human heritage. As the gentle evening light filters through the olive groves of ancient Crete, we step into the magnificent world of Minoan palace culture, where art and architecture merge to create spaces of breathtaking beauty and sophisticated function. Tonight, let your mind wander through corridors adorned with frescoes that seem to dance with life, past columns that taper gracefully toward their bases, and into rooms where every surface tells a story of a civilization that understood beauty as a fundamental necessity of human existence. Close your eyes and allow yourself to become part of a palace community where daily life unfolded amidst artistic splendor that still takes our breath away for millennia later. Picture yourself standing in the grand central court of Knossos as morning light illuminates the painted walls around you. This vast open space, measuring roughly 50 by 25 meters, served as the heart of palace life, a place where administrative business, religious ceremonies, and social gatherings all took place under the Mediterranean sky. The court's precise rectangular form and cardinal orientation demonstrate the sophisticated geometric understanding that guided Minoan architects in creating spaces that were both functionally perfect and aesthetically pleasing. The columns surrounding you represent one of the most distinctive features of Minoan architecture, wooden pillars that taper from thick tops to narrow bases, painted bright red with black capitals, creating a visual effect unlike anything seen in contemporary civilizations. These inverted columns, recreated in stone in later Greek architecture, may have been inspired by the natural form of cypress trees planted upside down, their roots reaching skyward in a symbolic gesture connecting earth to heaven. Move now through the maze-like corridors that earned this palace its legendary reputation as the labyrinth of King Minos. Unlike the rigid, formal layouts of Egyptian or Mesopotamian palaces, Knossos grew organically over centuries, with rooms and passages added as needed, creating a complex that feels alive and responsive to human needs rather than bound by inflexible architectural rules. The winding passages, multiple levels, and interconnected chambers create an environment that encourages exploration and discovery. The magnificent frescoes that adorn these walls represent the pinnacle of Bronze Age European art. The famous bull-leaping fresco captures a moment of incredible athletic grace. Young men and women performing the dangerous ritual of grasping a charging bull's horns and vaulting over its back in a display of courage, skill, and religious devotion. The fluid movement, accurate anatomy, and dramatic composition of this scene demonstrate artistic sophistication that wouldn't be matched in Europe for over 1,000 years. Step into the Hall of the Double Axes, where religious and administrative functions merged in spaces designed to inspire both reverence and confidence. The double axe symbol, carved into stone pillars and painted on walls throughout the palace, represented the sacred authority of Minoan rulers, not the brutal power of warfare, but the balanced wisdom needed to govern a sophisticated society. These symbols appear alongside sacred horns, suggesting religious practices that emphasized harmony between human authority and divine will. The living quarters of the palace demonstrate the Minoan genius for combining beauty with comfort. The so-called Queen's Megaron features walls decorated with dancing dolphins that seem to swim through painted waves, creating an underwater paradise that brought the beauty of the sea into interior spaces. Light wells and air shafts provided natural illumination and ventilation, while sophisticated drainage systems ensured that these elegant rooms remained dry and comfortable throughout the year. Ascend the grand staircases that connected the palace's multiple levels, each step carefully proportioned for comfort and safety, each landing offering new vistas of painted walls and architectural detail. The staircases themselves became opportunities for artistic expression, with walls adorned with processional scenes showing elegantly dressed figures carrying offerings or participating in religious ceremonies. These images provide invaluable insights into Minoan social structure and ceremonial practices. The famous throne room represents the height of Minoan architectural and artistic achievement. The gypsum throne, carved from a single block of stone and polished to marble-like smoothness, sits against a wall decorated with griffins, mythical creatures that combine the power of lions with the soaring freedom of eagles. The benches flanking the throne suggest that Minoan governance involved consultation and discussion rather than autocratic decree, reflecting a political system that valued wisdom and consensus over individual power. Storage areas throughout the palace reveal the sophisticated economic system that supported this artistic flowering. Rows of enormous pit-hoi, pottery jars tall as a person and capable of holding hundreds of gallons, stored olive oil, wine, grain, and other commodities that formed the basis of Minoan prosperity. The artistic decoration of even these utilitarian vessels, with their rope patterns, spirals, and marine motifs, demonstrates a culture that found beauty in every aspect of daily life. Workshops within the palace complex show where the magnificent objects that filled these spaces were created. Pottery studios contained the wheels and kilns needed to produce the distinctive Minoan ceramics that were prized throughout the ancient Mediterranean. The famous Kamar's ware, with its flowing organic patterns and technical excellence, represents some of the finest pottery ever created, combining artistic beauty with functional perfection in ways that inspire ceramic artists today. The metalworking shops reveal the sophisticated techniques used to create bronze tools, weapons, and decorative objects that demonstrate the highest levels of craftsmanship. The process of lost wax casting, used to create complex figures like the famous snake goddess figurines, required skills and knowledge that were passed down through generations of master craftsmen who worked within the palace community. Religious spaces throughout the palace demonstrate the integration of spiritual life with daily activities. Sacred chambers contain lustral basins, sunken areas reached by short flights of steps that may have been used for purification rituals or religious ceremonies. The absence of separate temple buildings suggests that Minoan religious practice was woven into the fabric of palace life rather than segregated into specialized sacred spaces. The famous Parisian fresco, showing a young woman with elaborate curls, bright red lips, and a confident expression, challenges many assumptions about women's roles in ancient societies. The prominence of female figures throughout Minoan art, often shown in positions of apparent authority or religious significance, suggests a culture that valued feminine power and wisdom in ways that were unusual for Bronze Age civilizations. Light and ventilation systems throughout the palace demonstrate the sophisticated understanding of environmental factors that made these large buildings comfortable places to live and work. Light wells brought natural illumination deep into interior spaces, while carefully positioned openings created air currents that provided cooling during hot summer months. These systems worked so effectively that modern visitors often comment on how comfortable the palace remains even in the heat of summer. The architectural influence of Minoan palace design can be traced throughout later Mediterranean civilizations. The use of columns, the integration of interior and exterior spaces, the sophisticated use of natural lighting, and the emphasis on creating beautiful environments for daily life all influenced later Greek and Roman architecture, ensuring that Minoan innovations would continue to shape European building traditions for centuries. Recent archaeological techniques have revealed new aspects of palace construction that weren't apparent to early excavators. Ground-penetrating radar and 3D modeling show that the palace was even larger and more complex than originally realized, with additional structures extending beyond the currently excavated areas. These discoveries continue to enhance our understanding of how these magnificent buildings functioned as integrated communities. The palace culture of Minoan Crete represents a unique approach to civilizational organization, one that emphasized beauty, comfort, and artistic expression as essential elements of human society rather than mere luxury additions to basic survival needs. The resources that other civilizations devoted to military installations and defensive works were instead channeled into creating environments that celebrated human creativity and cultural achievement. Conservation efforts at palace sites continue to reveal new details about construction techniques and artistic methods. Chemical analysis of pigments shows that Minoan artists used sophisticated techniques to create colors that remained vibrant for millennia, while careful study of architectural elements reveals construction methods that combine structural soundness with aesthetic beauty in ways that modern architects continue to study and admire. As you drift deeper into this vision of ancient palace culture, let your mind rest in spaces where every surface was considered an opportunity for artistic expression, where daily life unfolded amidst beauty that was considered essential rather than optional, and where human creativity was valued as highly as practical skill. The palaces of Minoan Crete remind us that civilization's highest achievements come not from domination or accumulation, but from the patient cultivation of beauty, wisdom, and harmony in all aspects of human existence. Feel the gentle Mediterranean breeze moving through ancient corridors, carrying the scent of jasmine and wild herbs, while the soft play of light and shadow across painted walls creates an ever-changing gallery of ancient art. Let this peaceful atmosphere guide you toward restful sleep, knowing that human creativity and the love of beauty are eternal forces that transcend any particular time or culture. As the golden Mediterranean sun rises over the terraced hillsides of ancient Crete, we step into the daily rhythm of Minoan life, where prosperity and peace created conditions for human flourishing that wouldn't be matched in Europe for over 1,000 years. Tonight, let your mind drift into the courtyards and workshops, the olive groves and harbors, where ordinary Minoans lived lives of remarkable comfort and security. Close your eyes and imagine yourself awakening in a Minoan household, where the day begins not with the clash of weapons or the fear of invasion, but with the gentle sounds of craftsmen at their benches, children at their games, and merchants preparing for another day of peaceful commerce across the wine-dark sea. Picture yourself in a typical Minoan house as dawn light filters through the light well that illuminates the central courtyard. These ingenious architectural features, developed centuries before they appeared elsewhere in the Mediterranean, brought natural light deep into multi-story buildings while providing ventilation and a sense of connection with the sky above. The courtyard around you features a private well, ensuring that clean, fresh water is always available for cooking, cleaning, and the elaborate bathing rituals that were central to Minoan daily life. The family begins their day with a simple but nourishing breakfast featuring the staples of Cretan prosperity: bread made from barley and wheat, olive oil pressed from ancient groves that still dot the island today, fresh cheese from goats that grazed on mountain pastures, and perhaps honey collected from wild bees that visited the aromatic herbs covering the hillsides. Fruits and nuts supplement this healthy diet, while wine diluted with water provided safe drinking for adults in an age before understanding of water purification. Watch as the household members prepare for their daily activities, each dressed in garments that demonstrate the sophistication of Minoan textile production. Women wear elaborate layered skirts with fitted bodices, their hair arranged in complex styles adorned with gold pins and colorful ribbons. Men dress in simple loincloths for work or more elaborate kilts for formal occasions, their bronzed skin speaking of lives spent in the Mediterranean sun. Children play in miniature versions of adult clothing, already learning through imitation the skills they will need as they mature. The workshops attached to many households buzz with the quiet industry that created Minoan prosperity. In one corner, a potter shapes clay on a wheel, creating vessels that will carry Cretan olive oil to distant markets or store grain against the uncertain seasons. The rhythmic motion of the wheel, the gentle splash of water keeping the clay moist, and the focused concentration of the craftsman create an atmosphere of meditative calm that characterized much of Minoan working life. Nearby, a weaver works at a vertical loom, creating textiles that combined practical durability with aesthetic beauty. The wool, dyed with natural colors extracted from murex shells, saffron flowers, and other Mediterranean sources, forms patterns that echo the spirals and marine motifs found throughout Minoan art. These textiles, praised throughout the ancient world for their quality and beauty, provided both personal clothing and valuable trade goods that brought foreign luxuries to Cretan households. Children move freely through these spaces, learning through observation and gradually taking on responsibilities appropriate to their age and abilities. A young girl learns to spin thread while listening to her grandmother's stories, her small fingers acquiring the muscle memory that will serve her throughout life. Boys help their fathers with basic carpentry or metalworking, learning to use tools that will eventually enable them to support their own families. Education in Minoan society appears to have been practical and integrated into daily life rather than formal and separated from real-world activities. Archaeological evidence suggests that literacy was relatively widespread, at least among the urban population, with linear A script appearing on pottery and other household items throughout Cretan sites. This suggests a society that valued knowledge and communication as tools for both practical success and cultural continuity. The marketplace comes alive as the morning progresses, with merchants and craftsmen displaying their wares in spaces that encouraged social interaction as much as commercial exchange. The standardized weights and measures found throughout Minoan sites ensure fair dealing, while the absence of heavily fortified storage areas suggests a level of social trust that made complex commercial relationships possible without constant fear of theft or violence. Religious observances wove naturally through the fabric of daily life, with household shrines honoring snake goddesses, sacred trees, and other deities that protected families and communities. These practices required no elaborate priestly hierarchies or massive temple complexes. Instead, they emphasized personal devotion and community celebration of the natural forces that sustained life on the island. The famous bull leaping rituals, depicted so dramatically in palace frescoes, may have involved young people from throughout Cretan society rather than just palace elites. These dangerous ceremonies combined religious devotion with athletic prowess, creating shared experiences that unified communities around common values and traditions. The training required for such activities would have fostered physical fitness, courage, and the kind of coordinated teamwork that characterized many aspects of Minoan society. Agricultural work followed seasonal rhythms that had sustained Mediterranean communities for millennia. The olive harvest, winemaking, and grain cultivation all required community cooperation and shared labor, creating social bonds that reinforced the peaceful nature of Minoan society. The terraced fields that still characterize Cretan agriculture today were first developed by these ancient farmers who understood how to work with the landscape rather than against it. Women enjoyed status and freedom unusual for Bronze Age societies, as evidenced by their prominent representation in art and their apparent participation in religious and possibly political activities. The snake goddess figurines, with their elaborate dress and confident postures, suggest feminine power was recognized and celebrated rather than suppressed or marginalized. This gender equality may have contributed to the overall peaceful nature of Minoan culture. Maritime activities connected even inland communities to the broader Mediterranean world. Fishing boats brought fresh seafood to complement agricultural products, while larger vessels carried Cretan goods to distant markets and returned with exotic materials and foreign ideas that enriched local culture. The sophisticated harbors at sites like Knossos demonstrate the importance of sea-based trade to Minoan prosperity. Craft specialization reached remarkable levels, with evidence of workshops devoted to specific products like jewelry, pottery, textiles, and metalwork. This specialization was possible only because agricultural productivity created surpluses that could support non-farming populations, while peaceful conditions allowed craftsmen to develop their skills over generations without constant military interruption. Evening brought communities together for social activities that reinforced cultural bonds. Music and dancing, depicted in numerous frescoes, provided entertainment while preserving cultural traditions through performance. The elaborate costumes and graceful movements shown in these artistic representations suggest celebrations that were both beautiful spectacles and meaningful expressions of community identity. The absence of weapons in most household contexts speaks to daily life largely free from violence or the constant threat of attack. While bronze tools were common, bronze weapons are remarkably rare in domestic contexts, suggesting that Minoan families lived without the fear that characterized many ancient societies. This security enabled the cultural flowering that made Minoan civilization unique in Bronze Age Europe. Seasonal festivals marked important transitions in agricultural and religious calendars, bringing together communities for celebrations that combined practical activities like harvest processing with religious ceremonies and social bonding. These gatherings would have provided opportunities for young people to meet potential spouses, for merchants to negotiate trade agreements, and for artists to share new techniques and ideas. Healthcare appears to have been relatively advanced, with evidence of surgical procedures, pharmaceutical knowledge based on herbal medicines, and sanitation practices that promoted public health. The sophisticated plumbing systems found in Minoan settlements weren't just luxury amenities but practical measures that prevented disease and supported larger urban populations than would otherwise have been possible. As we observe this daily life unfolding across ancient Crete, we see a civilization that achieved something remarkable: the creation of conditions where human beings could focus on developing their potential rather than merely surviving threats. The peaceful nature of Minoan society, combined with their prosperity and technological sophistication, created space for the artistic and cultural achievements that continue to amaze and inspire us today. Let your mind rest in this vision of daily life where beauty and practical skill were equally valued, where communities work together for mutual benefit. As the gentle evening breeze carries the scent of salt and adventure across the ancient harbours of Crete, we embark tonight on a peaceful voyage through time to discover how the Minoans became the Mediterranean's first great maritime civilization. Let your mind drift across moonlit waters where sleek Minoan vessels once carried precious cargo to distant shores, connecting the island kingdom to trading partners from Spain to Syria. Close your eyes and feel the rhythmic rocking of ancient ships as we explore how masterful seamanship and peaceful commerce transformed a small island culture into the economic heart of the Bronze Age Mediterranean world. Picture yourself standing on the ancient quay at Knossos as the first light of dawn illuminates one of the Bronze Age world's most sophisticated harbour installations. This remarkable port, with its massive stone blocks and carefully engineered breakwaters, could accommodate vessels from across the known world. The harbour's design demonstrates the Minoan understanding of tidal patterns, seasonal weather changes, and the practical requirements of international maritime commerce that made their traders welcome in every Mediterranean port. The ships themselves represent marvels of Bronze Age technology, their designs preserved for us in the colourful frescoes that adorned palace walls throughout Crete. Long, sleek vessels with high prows and sterns curve gracefully through painted waves, their square sails billowing with Mediterranean winds while rows of oars provide power when the breeze fails. These ships, measuring up to 100 feet in length, combined seaworthiness with cargo capacity in ways that enabled profitable long-distance voyages throughout the ancient world. Imagine the careful preparation required before each trading expedition departed Cretan shores. Merchants studied seasonal wind patterns that would carry their vessels swiftly to distant markets, while navigators consulted star charts and coastal landmarks that guided ancient mariners across open water centuries before the invention of magnetic compasses. The knowledge required for successful voyages was passed down through generations of seafaring families who made navigation both art and science. The cargo loaded into these vessels tells the story of Minoan prosperity and the island's strategic position in Mediterranean trade networks. Enormous pottery jars filled with precious olive oil, liquid gold that commanded high prices throughout the ancient world, formed the backbone of Cretan exports. This oil, pressed from groves that still flourish on Cretan hillsides, provided not just culinary luxury but essential lighting fuel for households from Sicily to Cyprus. Wine, another staple of Minoan trade, travelled in distinctive pottery amphoras that have been found in archaeological sites throughout the Mediterranean. The quality of Cretan wine was renowned throughout the ancient world, and the elegant vessels that contained it became prized possessions in foreign courts. The widespread distribution of these containers demonstrates the extent of Minoan commercial networks and the high regard in which their products were held. The famous Minoan textiles, woven from fine wool and dyed with expensive pigments like Tyrian purple, commanded premium prices in foreign markets. These garments, with their intricate patterns and superior craftsmanship, were luxury items that only the wealthy could afford, ensuring that Minoan merchants earned substantial profits that funded further expansion of their trading operations. Bronze objects crafted by Minoan smiths, tools, weapons, and decorative items were prized throughout the Mediterranean for their quality and artistic merit. The bronze-working techniques developed in Cretan workshops produced alloys that were stronger and more durable than those made elsewhere, while the artistic decoration of even utilitarian objects demonstrated the Minoan commitment to beauty in all aspects of life. Return voyages brought exotic materials and foreign ideas that enriched Minoan culture and demonstrated the cosmopolitan nature of their civilization. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, with its deep blue color prized for jewelry and religious objects, arrived in Crete through trade networks that spanned half the known world. Silver from Spain, tin from distant sources in Europe and Asia, and precious stones from various Mediterranean sources all found their way to Cretan workshops. Ivory from Africa and Syria provided raw materials for the skilled carvers who created the delicate figurines and decorative objects that graced Minoan palaces. These exotic materials weren't just luxury imports but essential components of the sophisticated craft industries that made Minoan products so desirable throughout the ancient world. The ability to acquire and work with such diverse materials demonstrated the reach and effectiveness of Minoan commercial networks. The peaceful nature of Minoan trade relationships sets them apart from many ancient civilizations that relied on military conquest to secure resources and markets. Minoan merchants appear to have succeeded through fair dealing, quality products, and diplomatic skill rather than threat of force. The absence of heavily fortified trading posts or evidence of military conquest in their commercial expansion suggests a civilization that understood that mutual benefit creates more stable and profitable relationships than coercion. Trading colonies established throughout the Aegean Islands extended Minoan commercial influence while spreading their culture and artistic styles across the Mediterranean. Sites like Crete on Santorini show clear Minoan influence in architecture, art, and daily life objects, suggesting peaceful cultural exchange rather than military domination. These outposts served as supply stations for longer voyages while introducing Minoan innovations to local populations. Navigation techniques developed by Minoan mariners laid the foundation for later Mediterranean seafaring traditions. Their understanding of seasonal wind patterns, coastal landmarks, and stellar navigation enabled successful voyages across open water at a time when most cultures limited themselves to coastal sailing. This navigational expertise became part of the broader Mediterranean maritime tradition that would eventually enable Greek and Roman expansion across the known world. The economic system that supported this maritime empire demonstrates sophisticated understanding of international commerce and finance. Standardized weights and measures found throughout Minoan sites match those used in distant trading centers, enabling accurate and fair exchanges that built trust and encouraged repeat business. The linear A script that appears on many trading documents suggests systematic record-keeping that tracked complex commercial relationships across vast distances. Harbor installations throughout Crete demonstrate the infrastructure investment required to support large-scale maritime commerce. Beyond the famous port at Knossos, smaller harbors served regional trade while providing safe havens during the frequent storms that make Mediterranean sailing dangerous. These facilities included warehouses for storing goods, workshops for ship repair, and administrative buildings where customs duties were collected and trading agreements negotiated. The social structure of Minoan maritime commerce appears to have involved both palace-sponsored expeditions and private merchants operating with official support. This mixed system enabled large-scale ventures that individual traders couldn't finance while encouraging entrepreneurial initiative that drove innovation and expanded market opportunities. The prosperity generated by maritime trade funded the artistic and architectural achievements that made Minoan civilization famous. Seasonal trading patterns govern the rhythm of commercial activity, with summer voyages taking advantage of favorable winds and calm seas, while winter months were devoted to preparing cargoes and maintaining vessels. This seasonal cycle connected Minoan commerce to agricultural rhythms throughout the Mediterranean, ensuring that trade expeditions arrived at foreign markets when local harvests provided goods for exchange. The decline of Minoan maritime power around 1450 BCE coincided with broader changes in Mediterranean trade networks and the rise of new commercial powers. The destruction of many Cretan palaces disrupted the administrative systems that coordinated large-scale trading expeditions, while political instability may have made the peaceful commerce that characterized Minoan trade more difficult to maintain. Modern underwater archaeology continues to reveal new evidence of Minoan maritime activities. Shipwrecks discovered off the Turkish coast contain Minoan pottery and other artifacts that demonstrate the extent of their trading networks, while harbor installations recently discovered through underwater survey reveal the sophisticated port facilities that made large-scale commerce possible. The legacy of Minoan maritime achievement influenced later Mediterranean civilizations that inherited their routes, techniques, and commercial relationships. The peaceful trading relationships they established provided models for later Greek and Roman merchants, while their navigational knowledge became part of the broader tradition of Mediterranean seamanship that enabled the expansion of classical civilization. As we complete this voyage through the world of Minoan maritime commerce, let your mind rest on the image of ancient harbors bustling with peaceful activity, where merchants from distant lands gathered to exchange goods and ideas in an atmosphere of mutual respect and shared prosperity. The success of Minoan traders demonstrates that commerce based on quality, fairness, and mutual benefit creates more lasting prosperity than relationships built on exploitation or coercion. Feel the gentle rocking of ancient vessels as they carried precious cargoes across calm seas. Guided by stars that still shine above Mediterranean waters and propelled by winds that continue to fill the sails of modern ships following routes first pioneered by these Bronze Age mariners. Let the peaceful rhythm of waves and the distant sound of harbor activity guide you toward restful sleep, knowing that human ingenuity and the spirit of peaceful exchange have connected distant cultures across the centuries. As twilight settles over the sacred peaks of ancient Crete, we enter the mystical world of Minoan spirituality, where goddesses held serpents aloft in divine blessing and young athletes danced with sacred bulls in rituals that honored the eternal forces of life and renewal. Tonight, let your mind drift into temple chambers filled with the soft glow of oil lamps, where priestesses in elaborate robes conducted ceremonies that connected the human community to the natural world that sustained them. Close your eyes and feel the ancient rhythms of sacred time, where every season, every harvest, every birth and death was woven into a tapestry of religious meaning that gave shape and purpose to Minoan life. Picture yourself climbing the winding path to one of Crete's mountain peak sanctuaries as the first stars appear in the darkening sky. These high places, where earth reaches toward heaven, served as natural temples where Minoans gathered to honor the deities who governed their world. The thin mountain air carries the scent of wild thyme and oregano, while the distant sound of goat bells mingles with the gentle rustle of olive leaves in the evening breeze. Here, far above the busy world of palace and marketplace, the sacred and eternal seemed within easy reach. The mountain sanctuaries, scattered across Crete's peaks, represent one of the most distinctive aspects of Minoan religious practice. Unlike the massive temple complexes that dominated other ancient civilizations, these simple outdoor shrines consisted of little more than natural rock formations, small altars, and deposits of sacred offerings. The absence of monumental architecture suggests a spirituality that found the divine in natural settings rather than in human constructions designed to overwhelm and intimidate. Descend now into the sacred caves that honeycomb Crete's limestone mountains, where generations of Minoans deposited offerings to chthonic deities who governed the underground forces of fertility and renewal. The famous Psychro Cave, legendary birthplace of Zeus in later Greek mythology, contains deposits of bronze weapons, pottery, and jewelry that span over 1,000 years of continuous religious use. The stalactites and flowstone formations, sculpted by millennia of dripping water, created natural cathedral spaces where worshippers gathered to honor the earth goddess and her mysterious powers. The most famous religious artifacts of Minoan civilization are the extraordinary snake goddess figurines discovered in palace repositories throughout Crete. These ceramic sculptures, with their elaborate tiered skirts, fitted bodices, and bare breasts, depict priestesses or goddesses holding serpents aloft in gestures that combine power with grace. The snakes, symbols of renewal and wisdom in many ancient cultures, suggest religious practices that honored the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth that governed both agricultural and human existence. The larger of these figurines, standing nearly 2 feet tall, displays remarkable artistic sophistication in its rendering of costume details, facial features, and bodily proportions. The goddess wears a complex headdress adorned with what appear to be sacred symbols, while her elaborate dress includes patterns that echo the geometric motifs found throughout Minoan art. Her confident posture and serene expression speak of feminine divine power that was central to Minoan religious understanding. Move through the palace corridors where religious and administrative functions merged in spaces designed to honor both human authority and divine will. The throne room at Knossos, with its griffin frescoes and lustral basin, served ceremonial purposes that combined governance with religious ritual. The gypsum throne, positioned to overlook a sunken area where purification ceremonies may have taken place, suggests a system of authority that drew legitimacy from spiritual as well as practical sources. The famous bull-leaping frescoes that adorn palace walls depict one of the most dramatic and mysterious aspects of Minoan religious life. Young men and women, their bodies bronzed by the Mediterranean sun, perform the dangerous ritual of grasping charging bulls by their horns and vaulting over their backs in displays of athletic grace and religious devotion. These ceremonies, requiring years of training and exceptional courage, may have served as initiation rites that marked the transition from youth to adulthood in Minoan society. The bulls themselves held profound sacred significance throughout Minoan culture, their power and vitality making them natural symbols of the life force that sustained both human communities and the natural world. The massive horns that crowned palace rooftops and appeared as architectural elements throughout religious sites weren't mere decorations, but sacred symbols that connected earthly buildings to cosmic powers. These horns of consecration, carved from stone and painted bright colors, marked spaces where the divine presence was particularly strong. Sacred groves scattered throughout the Cretan landscape provided settings for religious ceremonies that honored the tree spirits and nature deities central to Minoan belief. These natural sanctuaries, where ancient oaks, sacred figs, and flowering almonds grew in spaces protected from cutting or cultivation, served as outdoor temples where communities gathered for seasonal festivals. The trees themselves, with their cycles of leafing, flowering, fruiting, and dormancy, embodied the natural rhythms that governed agricultural and human life. The religious calendar followed the agricultural year, with major festivals marking planting time, harvest seasons, and the turning points between light and dark that governed Mediterranean life. Spring celebrations honored the return of vegetation and the renewal of life force after winter's dormancy, while autumn festivals gave thanks for successful harvests and prepared communities for the challenges of the cold season ahead. Women appear to have played central roles in Minoan religious practice, serving as priestesses, temple attendants, and possibly even as divine representatives in important ceremonies. The prominence of female figures throughout Minoan religious art, combined with the apparent absence of dominant male religious hierarchies, suggests a spiritual system that valued feminine wisdom and intuitive understanding as essential components of sacred knowledge. The integration of religious practice into daily life meant that spiritual observances weren't confined to special occasions or separate sacred spaces, but wove naturally through the fabric of ordinary activities. Household shrines honored protective deities who watched over families and ensured prosperity, while craft workshops contained religious symbols that blessed the work performed there and ensured the quality of finished products. Purification rituals played important roles in Minoan religious practice, as evidenced by the elaborate bathing facilities found throughout palace and domestic sites. The lustral basins, sunken chambers reached by short flights of steps, may have been used for ceremonial cleansing that prepared participants for religious ceremonies or marked important transitions in social status. The importance of water in these rituals reflects its essential role in sustaining life and its symbolic associations with renewal and rebirth. The peaceful nature of Minoan religious practice, like other aspects of their civilization, set them apart from many contemporary cultures that emphasized warfare, sacrifice, and divine intimidation. The absence of weapons in religious contexts, the rarity of apparent sacrificial remains, and the general atmosphere of celebration rather than propitiation in religious art suggest spiritual practices that emphasized gratitude and harmony rather than fear and submission. Symbolic language permeated Minoan religious expression, with recurring motifs that connected diverse aspects of sacred understanding into coherent systems of meaning. The double axe, sacred tree, pillar, snake, and bull appeared throughout religious art in combinations that suggest complex theological concepts involving the relationship between human communities, natural forces, and divine powers. These symbols created a visual vocabulary that communicated religious ideas across different social contexts and geographic locations. The famous master impression seal from Chania shows a male figure, possibly a priest-king or deity, standing atop a sacred building while lions flank him in poses of submission or reverence. This rare depiction of masculine religious authority suggests that while feminine divine power was prominent in Minoan religion, male spiritual leadership also played important roles in ceremonial and administrative contexts. Sacred objects found throughout Minoan sites demonstrate the material culture that supported religious practice. Bronze figurines of worshippers with raised arms, ceramic rhytons, ritual vessels, shaped like bulls or other animals, and elaborate ceremonial weapons suggest a rich tradition of religious craftsmanship that created beautiful objects specifically for spiritual use. These artifacts, often made from precious materials and decorated with exceptional skill, demonstrate the resources that Minoan communities devoted to religious expression. The mystery surrounding specific Minoan religious beliefs continues to challenge modern scholars, since the linear A script that recorded their sacred texts remains undeciphered. This linguistic barrier means that while we can observe religious practices through archaeological remains and artistic representations, the theological concepts and mythological stories that gave meaning to these activities remain largely unknown. This mystery adds an element of poetic uncertainty to our understanding of Minoan spirituality. Modern archaeological techniques continue to reveal new aspects of Minoan religious life. Chemical analysis of residues in ritual vessels helps identify the substances used in ceremonies, while careful excavation of sanctuary sites reveals the sequence of religious activities that took place over centuries of continuous use. These scientific methods provide insights into religious practices that aren't evident from artistic representations alone. The influence of Minoan religious concepts can be traced through later Greek mythology and religious practice, particularly in the cults associated with Crete in classical times. The legend of Zeus's birth in the Psychro cave, the prominence of bull symbolism in various Greek religious contexts, and the continued reverence for certain Cretan sacred sites suggest that elements of Minoan spirituality survived the civilization's political collapse and continued to influence Mediterranean religious development as we complete this journey through the sacred world of Minoan religion. Let your mind rest in the image of ancient sanctuaries where human communities gathered to honor the forces that sustained their lives. The integration of spiritual practice into daily activities, the reverence for natural settings as divine spaces, and the emphasis on gratitude rather than fear create a model of religious life that emphasizes harmony between human needs and cosmic rhythms. Feel the gentle evening breeze carrying the scent of sacred groves across ancient landscapes. Hear the distant sound of ceremonies that connected earthly communities to eternal rhythms, and sense the profound peace that comes from living in conscious relationship with the natural forces that govern all existence. Let this ancient wisdom guide you toward restful sleep, knowing that the search for meaning and connection with the divine is a timeless human endeavor that transcends any particular culture or historical period. As the soft lamplight flickers across ancient clay tablets in a moonlit Minoan archive, we enter tonight into one of archaeology's most enduring mysteries, the elegant script called Linear A that has guarded its secrets for over 3,000 years. Let your mind drift into the quiet chambers where Minoan scribes once pressed styluses into soft clay, creating records that would outlast their civilization yet remain as mysterious today as the day they were written. Close your eyes and imagine the gentle scratch of reed against clay as we explore Europe's first sophisticated writing system, a script so beautiful in its precision yet so enigmatic in its meaning that it continues to challenge the world's finest linguists and codebreakers. Picture yourself in a palace scriptorium as evening shadows lengthen across the Mediterranean landscape. The scribe before you works with practiced efficiency, pressing a bronze stylus into a tablet of soft clay while consulting other documents arranged nearby on wooden shelves. The symbols that flow from his careful hand are unlike any writing system you've seen, linear marks that combine pictographic elements with abstract signs, creating texts that clearly carried important information yet remain completely incomprehensible to modern eyes. Linear A represents the pinnacle of Minoan intellectual achievement, a writing system developed around 1800 BCE that enabled this sophisticated civilization to maintain complex administrative records, religious texts, and possibly literary works that recorded their thoughts, beliefs, and daily concerns. Unlike the crude pictographic systems used by many ancient cultures, Linear A demonstrates abstract thinking and linguistic sophistication that places it among the world's most advanced early writing systems. The script takes its name from the linear nature of its symbols, elegant marks pressed into clay rather than the pictographic images that characterized earlier writing systems. The designation A distinguishes it from Linear B, a later script discovered at Greek mainland sites and successfully deciphered in the 1950s by the brilliant linguist Michael Ventris. Linear B, we now know, recorded an early form of Greek, but Linear A predates it by centuries and represents the authentic voice of Minoan civilization. Over 1,400 Linear A inscriptions have been discovered across Crete and several Aegean islands, appearing on clay tablets, pottery vessels, stone libation tables, and metal objects. The widespread distribution of these inscriptions demonstrates that literacy wasn't confined to palace elites but extended throughout Minoan society, with merchants, craftsmen, and religious personnel all apparently able to read and write in this sophisticated script. The tablets themselves provide tantalizing glimpses into the organizational complexity of Minoan civilization. Many appear to be administrative records documenting the collection and distribution of agricultural products, craft goods, and tribute payments that sustained the palace economies. Lists of numbers, commodity signs, and personal names suggest bureaucratic systems as sophisticated as any found in the ancient world, yet the specific details of these transactions remain locked away by our inability to read the script. Religious inscriptions represent another major category of linear A texts found on sacred objects, libation tables, and architectural elements throughout Minoan religious sites. These texts, often beginning with formulaic expressions that may represent prayers or dedications, suggest a rich tradition of religious literature that complemented the visual symbolism we see in Minoan art. The spiritual dimensions of Minoan culture, so evident in their magnificent religious imagery, may have found equally sophisticated expression in written texts that remain beyond our understanding. The aesthetic beauty of linear A symbols reflects the Minoan commitment to artistic excellence in all aspects of their culture. Each sign is carefully proportioned and elegantly formed, creating texts that are visually pleasing even when their meaning remains mysterious. The consistency of symbol formation across different sites and time periods demonstrates standardized scribal training that maintained high aesthetic standards while ensuring functional literacy throughout the Minoan world. Attempts to decipher linear A have occupied scholars for over a century, beginning with Sir Arthur Evans himself, who recognized the script's importance immediately upon discovering the first tablets at Knossos. Evans spent decades attempting to understand these mysterious symbols, trying various approaches including comparison with other ancient scripts, analysis of numerical systems, and attempts to identify patterns that might reveal grammatical structures. Modern decipherment efforts employ sophisticated computational methods that weren't available to earlier scholars. Computer analysis has identified recurring symbol combinations, statistical patterns, and possible grammatical structures that provide insights into the script's organizational principles. These digital approaches have revealed that linear A exhibits characteristics of a complex writing system capable of recording the full range of human expression, from practical administrative records to sophisticated literary works. The numerical system embedded within linear A has been successfully deciphered, revealing that the Minoans used a decimal-based counting system similar to that found in linear B. This mathematical component of the script allows scholars to identify quantities and calculations in many texts, providing windows into Minoan economic activities even when the specific commodities and transactions remain mysterious. Personal names represent another category of linear A text that may yield to future decipherment efforts. Many inscriptions contain what appear to be individual names, some of which recur across multiple documents and locations. These names, if properly identified, could provide insights into Minoan social structure, family relationships, and perhaps even religious beliefs reflected in naming practices. The relationship between linear A and other ancient writing systems continues to intrigue researchers. Some scholars suggest possible connections to Anatolian scripts, others to Egyptian hieroglyphics, and still others propose that linear A represents a completely unique development unrelated to contemporary writing systems. These different theories reflect the script's mysterious nature and the challenges involved in deciphering a language with no known relatives. The famous Frescoes disc, while not written in linear A, provides another example of undeciphered Minoan script that adds to the mystery surrounding their writing systems. This spiral text, printed rather than written on a clay disc, uses symbols different from linear, yet clearly represents another sophisticated attempt to record language in permanent form. The disc's unique printing technique and spiral arrangement suggest experimental approaches to writing that complement the more conventional linear A tablets. Geographic distribution of linear A inscriptions reveals the extent of Minoan cultural influence throughout the Aegean world. Tablets have been found not only throughout Crete but also on islands like Santorini, Kea, and Samothrace, demonstrating that Minoan administrative and possibly religious practices spread along trade routes to communities throughout the region. Recent discoveries continue to add new linear A inscriptions to the corpus available for study. Archaeological excavations at sites like Chania and Zakros regularly produce new tablets, while careful re-examination of museum collections sometimes identifies previously overlooked inscriptions on pottery and other artifacts. Each new text provides additional data for computational analysis while potentially containing the key insight needed for successful decipherment. The emotional appeal of linear A extends beyond its academic significance to touch something fundamental about human curiosity and the desire to communicate across time. These tablets represent the thoughts and concerns of real people who lived, worked, and worried about their daily lives in ways that remain essentially human despite the passage of millennia. The tragedy of our inability to read their words creates a poignant sense of connection interrupted. We can see their script, admire its beauty, and sense its importance, yet we cannot hear their voices or understand their concerns. Prize competitions have been established offering substantial rewards for successful decipherment of linear A, reflecting both scholarly interest and popular fascination with this ancient mystery. The challenges involved, however, are enormous. Deciphering an unknown language written in an unknown script without bilingual texts or closely related languages requires breakthroughs in methodology that may take generations to achieve. Educational programs now introduce students to linear A as both a historical mystery and a methodological challenge that illustrates the detective work involved in archaeological research. These programs demonstrate how scholars approach undeciphered scripts, the tools and techniques available for analysis, and the patience required for research that may not yield results for decades or centuries. The preservation of linear A tablets represents ongoing challenges for museums and archaeological institutions worldwide. These clay documents, baked hard by ancient fires or modern kill treatment, remain fragile artifacts that require careful environmental control to prevent deterioration. Digital preservation efforts ensure that high-resolution images and detailed descriptions of all known inscriptions will remain available for future researchers even if the physical artifacts suffer damage. Cultural impact of linear A extends into popular literature, films, and artistic works that find inspiration in the mystery of undeciphered ancient texts. The script has become a symbol of lost knowledge and the tantalizing possibility that profound wisdom or unexpected insights might await discovery in documents that have remained silent for 3 millennia. The connection between Linear A and the broader mystery of Minoan civilization adds another layer of significance to decipherment efforts. Success in reading these texts could revolutionize our understanding of Europe's first advanced culture, providing direct access to their thoughts about politics, religion, literature, and daily life that would complement the archaeological evidence that currently forms our only source of information about their society. Future prospects for Linear A decipherment remain uncertain but not hopeless. Advances in computational linguistics, artificial intelligence, and pattern recognition continue to provide new tools for approaching ancient scripts. The discovery of new inscriptions, particularly any bilingual texts or extended literary works, could provide the breakthrough needed to unlock this ancient mystery. As we conclude this exploration of Linear A and its enduring mysteries, let your mind rest on the image of ancient scribes working by lamplight, creating texts that would preserve their thoughts and concerns for future generations. The irony that we can see their words but cannot understand their meaning creates a poignant connection across time. We share with these ancient people the fundamental human desire to record our thoughts and communicate our experiences to others. Feel the gentle weight of clay tablets in patient hands. Hear the soft scratch of styluses creating symbols that carried meaning and importance to their creators, and sense the profound human continuity represented by the act of writing. Whether we can read Linear A or not, these tablets represent the timeless human urge to preserve knowledge, record experiences, and communicate across time and space. Let this ancient legacy of human communication guide you toward peaceful sleep, knowing that the search for understanding and connection transcends any particular language or historical period. As the gentle Mediterranean sunset paints the ancient walls of Knossos in shades of gold and rose, we enter tonight into the magnificent world of Minoan art, where beauty was not merely decoration but a fundamental expression of how these remarkable people understood life itself. Let your mind drift through painted corridors where dolphins leap eternally through azure seas, where elegant ladies with elaborate curls seem to smile across the centuries, and where every surface becomes a canvas for celebrating the natural world that sustained their civilization. Close your eyes and allow yourself to become part of a culture that created art not to intimidate or dominate, but to bring joy, meaning, and visual harmony into every aspect of daily existence. Picture yourself standing before the famous Prince of the Lilies fresco as morning light illuminates this masterpiece of Bronze Age European art. The young man walks with confident grace through a field of stylized flowers, his feathered crown and elaborate jewelry speaking of ceremonial importance, yet his serene expression and fluid movement suggest celebration rather than conquest. The artist who created this image understood human anatomy, natural movement, and decorative composition in ways that wouldn't be matched in European art for over a millennium. The technical sophistication of Minoan fresco painting demonstrates artistic knowledge that rivals any civilization of the ancient world. These wall paintings were created using the true fresco technique, pigments applied to wet lime plaster so that the colors became permanently bonded to the wall surface as the plaster dried. This demanding method required artists to work quickly and confidently, completing entire sections before the plaster set, Yet Minoan painters achieved results of extraordinary beauty and lasting permanence. Move through the corridors where the famous dolphin frescoes transform architectural spaces into underwater paradises. These marine scenes, painted in the Queen's quarters at Knossos, create immersive environments where viewers feel surrounded by the beauty of the Mediterranean Sea that was so central to Minoan life. The dolphins leap and play through painted waves with anatomical accuracy and dynamic energy that captures the joy and freedom these intelligent creatures embodied for ancient observers. The Ladies in Blue fresco reveals the sophisticated understanding of human portraiture that Minoan artists achieved. These elegant women, with their elaborate hairstyles, colorful clothing, and animated conversation, seem to have been captured in a moment of social interaction that feels remarkably modern and accessible. Their large eyes, small waists, and fashionable dress reflect artistic conventions, yet each figure maintains individual character and personality that speaks across millennia. The color palette of Minoan frescoes demonstrates sophisticated knowledge of pigment preparation and artistic effect. Deep blues derived from costly lapis lazuli, brilliant reds from iron oxides, warm yellows from natural ochres, and pure whites from lime create harmonious combinations that remain vibrant after 4,000 years. These colors weren't chosen randomly but carefully selected to create emotional and spiritual effects that enhance the spaces they decorated. Step into the workshops where Minoan potters created vessels that combined functional excellence with artistic beauty in ways that made their ceramics prized throughout the ancient Mediterranean. The potter's wheel, introduced to Crete from the Near East but refined to new levels of precision, enabled the creation of vessels with thin walls, elegant profiles, and perfect symmetry that demonstrated both technical skill and aesthetic sophistication. The famous Kamar's ware, named after the cave where the first examples were discovered, represents the pinnacle of Minoan ceramic achievement. These vessels, with their flowing organic patterns inspired by marine life, plant forms, and abstract spirals, create visual rhythms that seem to move and dance around the curved surfaces of cups, jars, and ritual vessels. The thin walls and precise execution of these pieces required generations of accumulated knowledge and exceptional individual skill. Watch as a master potter shapes clay that will become a stirrup jar, its distinctive form perfectly suited for storing and pouring precious olive oil. The elegant spout, carefully balanced proportions, and smooth surface finish create objects that were both practical tools and beautiful works of art. These vessels, found in archaeological sites from Spain to Syria, carried not just Cretan olive oil but the reputation of Minoan artistic excellence throughout the ancient world. The decorative motifs that appear throughout Minoan art reflect deep connections to the natural world that sustained their civilization. Octopi with flowing tentacles, dolphins leaping through stylized waves, flowering plants with graceful stems and blossoms, and abstract spirals that echo the movement of wind and water create a visual vocabulary that celebrates life, growth, and natural beauty rather than warfare, domination, or divine intimidation. Religious art in Minoan culture integrated spiritual themes with artistic beauty in ways that made sacred imagery accessible and appealing rather than mysterious or frightening. The famous snake goddess figurines, with their elaborate dress and confident gestures, represent feminine divine power through artistic forms that emphasize grace, wisdom, and protective care rather than wrath or judgment. These ceramic sculptures demonstrate the sophisticated modeling techniques that Minoan artists applied to religious subjects. Jewelry and personal ornaments reveal another dimension of Minoan artistic achievement. Gold diadem with intricate repousse work, delicate filigree earrings, and elaborate pendants decorated with granulation techniques show metalworking skills that rival the finest ancient craftsmanship. The famous bee pendant from Malia, with its realistic rendering of insect anatomy combined with decorative stylization, demonstrates the Minoan ability to find artistic inspiration in the smallest details of natural life. Stone carving reached remarkable sophistication in Minoan hands, particularly in the creation of seals and ceremonial vessels. The famous crystal rhyton from Zakros, carved from a single piece of rock crystal into the form of a bull's head, demonstrates lapidary skills that wouldn't be matched until much later periods. The precision required to carve such delicate forms from hard stone, combined with the artistic vision that conceived these elegant shapes, places Minoan stone carvers among the ancient world's finest artists. Textile arts, while rarely preserved in archaeological contexts, are suggested by the elaborate costumes depicted in frescoes and figurines. The complex patterns, layered construction, and sophisticated tailoring shown in these representations indicate textile production that combined technical excellence with artistic design. The textiles that survive, mainly as impressions in metal objects or as carbonized fragments, suggest weaving techniques and decorative approaches that influenced Mediterranean textile traditions for centuries. The integration of art into architectural spaces demonstrates the Minoan understanding that beauty should be part of daily life rather than reserved for special occasions or elite consumption. Light wells brought natural illumination to painted walls, creating changing effects throughout the day as sunlight moved across artistic surfaces. The placement of frescoes, the selection of subjects for different rooms, and the coordination between painted decoration and architectural features show sophisticated understanding of environmental design. Cultural exchange through trade brought foreign artistic influences to Crete while spreading Minoan artistic concepts throughout the Mediterranean world. Egyptian motifs appear in some Minoan art, while Minoan decorative elements can be traced in pottery and other objects found throughout the Aegean region. This artistic cross-pollination enriched local traditions while maintaining the distinctive character that made Minoan art immediately recognizable. The absence of militaristic themes in Minoan art sets it apart from contemporary civilizations that emphasized warfare, conquest, and royal power in their artistic production. Minoan artists created images of celebration, natural beauty, religious devotion, and social harmony that reflect cultural values emphasizing peace, prosperity, and community well-being rather than individual aggrandizement or military dominance. Modern conservation techniques continue to reveal new details about Minoan artistic methods and materials. Scientific analysis of pigments, binding agents, and surface preparations provides insights into technical procedures that aren't evident from visual examination alone. These studies help preserve existing artworks while deepening understanding of the knowledge and skills that created these ancient masterpieces. The influence of Minoan artistic traditions can be traced through later Greek art, particularly in decorative motifs, compositional approaches, and the integration of natural themes into artistic expression. The marine-style pottery that became popular throughout the Aegean region during the Late Bronze Age shows direct Minoan influence, while architectural decoration in later Greek buildings often echoes patterns and themes first developed by Minoan artists. Digital reconstruction techniques now enable virtual recreation of damaged or fragmentary artworks, allowing scholars and the public to experience Minoan artistic environments as they originally appeared. These technologies provide new ways of understanding how individual artworks functioned within larger decorative schemes and architectural contexts that have been disrupted by time and archaeological excavation. Educational programs introduce students to Minoan art as an example of how human creativity flourishes under conditions of peace and prosperity. The emphasis on natural beauty, technical excellence, and integration of art into daily life provides models for understanding how artistic expression can enhance human experience rather than merely serving political or religious propaganda purposes. Contemporary artists continue to find inspiration in Minoan artistic traditions, particularly in the integration of natural themes, the emphasis on fluid movement, and the creation of art that celebrates life rather than power. These modern interpretations ensure that Minoan artistic vision continues to influence creative expression in ways that honor both ancient achievement and contemporary innovation. Museum collections worldwide preserve Minoan artworks that enable millions of visitors to experience the beauty and sophistication achieved by this ancient civilization. The careful presentation of these objects, combined with educational materials that explain their historical and cultural context, ensures that future generations will continue to appreciate and learn from Minoan artistic accomplishments. As we complete this exploration of Minoan art and culture, let your mind rest in galleries where ancient artists created beauty that transcends any particular time or place. The integration of artistic expression into all aspects of life, the celebration of natural forms and colors, and the creation of environments that nourish the human spirit demonstrate timeless principles that continue to inspire and guide artistic creation today. Feel the warm Mediterranean light playing across painted walls where dolphins still leap through eternal seas. Hear the gentle sounds of workshops where potters shape clay into forms of lasting beauty, and sense the profound satisfaction that comes from creating objects that combine practical function with aesthetic excellence. Let this vision of human creativity and the pursuit of beauty guide you toward peaceful sleep, knowing that the urge to create, decorate, and find meaning through artistic expression represents one of humanity's most noble and enduring characteristics. As the gentle Mediterranean wind carries whispers of change across the ancient palaces of Crete, we arrive tonight at one of archaeology's most haunting mysteries. How did Europe's first advanced civilization, after flourishing for over 1,000 years in peaceful prosperity, suddenly fade from the pages of history around 1450 BCE? Let your mind drift through the twilight hours when the great palaces stood empty. their painted corridors echoing only with memories of vanished glory. Close your eyes and feel the weight of time as we explore the various theories that attempt to explain how a civilization so sophisticated, so beautiful, and so seemingly secure could disappear so completely that it became nothing more than legend and myth. Picture yourself standing in the ruins of Knossos on that fateful day around 1450 BCE when the last flames died down and silence settled over what had been Europe's most magnificent palace. The earthquake-damaged walls still bore traces of the beautiful frescoes that had celebrated life for centuries. Dolphins frozen mid-leap through painted seas, elegant court ladies whose smiles would never again grace ceremonial gatherings, young athletes forever captured in their graceful dance with sacred bulls that would never again thunder through these corridors. The mystery deepens when we realize that the collapse wasn't sudden or uniform across all of Crete. Archaeological evidence reveals a complex pattern of destruction and abandonment that unfolded over several generations, suggesting that multiple factors combined to bring down this remarkable civilization rather than a single catastrophic event. This gradual decline makes the Minoan collapse all the more poignant, not a dramatic ending, but a slow fading away of a way of life that had seemed eternal. The most famous theory involves the catastrophic eruption of the Thera volcano, modern-day Santorini, around 1600 BCE. This massive explosion, one of the largest volcanic eruptions in recorded history, sent enormous tsunamis racing across the Aegean Sea while covering vast areas in volcanic ash that blocked sunlight and devastated agriculture. The prosperous Minoan settlement at Crete on Thera was buried completely, preserved like a Bronze Age Pompeii that gives us our most detailed glimpse into Minoan daily life. However, modern archaeological dating has revealed a crucial detail that challenges this volcanic theory. The Great Eruption occurred around 1600 BCE, but the major palace destructions on Crete didn't happen until around 1450 BCE. A gap of 150 years. This timeline suggests that while the Thera eruption severely damaged Minoan power and prosperity, the civilization managed to survive and even partially recover before meeting its final end through other causes. The volcanic disaster did have profound long-term effects on Minoan society. The destruction of Crete eliminated a crucial trading hub that connected Crete to the broader Mediterranean world. The massive tsunamis devastated coastal settlements and harbor installations that were essential to Minoan maritime dominance, while ash fallout damaged agricultural areas that fed the island's population. Perhaps most importantly, the disaster may have shattered the psychological foundations of Minoan confidence, their belief that their peaceful, prosperous way of life was divinely protected and eternally secure. Climate change emerges as another significant factor in Minoan decline. Research suggests that around 1450 BCE, the Mediterranean experienced a series of strong El Niño events that brought drought conditions to Crete and surrounding regions. These climate shifts would have stressed agricultural production, reduced water supplies, and created economic hardships that weakened palace-based administrative systems. A civilization built on agricultural surplus and maritime trade would have struggled to maintain its sophisticated urban centers during extended periods of environmental stress. The rise of the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece provides perhaps the most compelling explanation for the final collapse of Minoan power. These warlike people, with their fortified citadels and bronze weapons, represented everything the peaceful Minoans were not. Archaeological evidence from around 1450 BCE shows clear signs of violent destruction at palace sites throughout Crete, with buildings burned and valuable objects smashed or looted. This destruction pattern suggests organized military campaigns rather than natural disasters or internal unrest. The Mycenaean takeover wasn't necessarily a sudden conquest, but may have unfolded over several decades as mainland Greeks gradually gained control of trade routes, established military bases on strategic islands, and finally moved to occupy Crete itself. The Linear B tablets found at later Knossos show that Greek speakers eventually controlled the palace administration, though they may have initially ruled through cooperation with surviving Minoan elites rather than complete replacement. Internal social dynamics may have made Minoan society vulnerable to external threats. The peaceful nature that was their greatest strength, the absence of military traditions, fortifications, or warrior classes, left them unprepared to resist aggressive neighbors. When crisis struck in the form of natural disasters and foreign pressure, they lacked the institutional structures needed for effective military response. Their sophisticated diplomatic and trading relationships, so effective during peaceful times, proved inadequate when confronted with opponents who preferred conquest to negotiation. Economic factors amplified other sources of stress. The Minoan economy depended heavily on long-distance trade networks that connected Crete to markets throughout the Mediterranean. Disruptions caused by the Thera eruption, climate change, and rising Mycenaean power would have interfered with these commercial relationships. As trade revenues declined, the palace administrations that coordinated Minoan society would have faced increasing difficulties funding their operations, maintaining infrastructure, and supporting the specialized craftsmen whose work created Minoan prosperity. The gradual nature of the collapse suggests that many Minoans adapted to changing circumstances rather than simply disappearing. Archaeological evidence shows cultural fusion between Minoan and Mycenaean traditions in the later periods, with Minoan artistic styles influencing Greek culture while Greek administrative practices transformed Cretan society. This cultural blending indicates that the end of Minoan political independence didn't mean the complete extinction of Minoan people or traditions. Religious and psychological factors may have played roles in the civilization's vulnerability. The Minoan worldview, based on harmony between human society and natural forces, may have been psychologically unprepared for a series of disasters that challenged fundamental assumptions about divine protection and natural order. When the volcanic eruption disrupted their sense of cosmic harmony and subsequent disasters continued to accumulate, the social cohesion that held their peaceful society together may have begun to unravel. The absence of written records in a decipherable script means that we cannot hear Minoan voices describing their own experiences during these critical centuries. The Linear A tablets that might tell us how they understood their changing world remain unreadable, leaving us to reconstruct their story from archaeological fragments and later Greek legends that may preserve distorted memories of actual events. The transformation of Minoan history into Greek mythology represents another aspect of their cultural legacy. The legends of King Minos, the Minotaur, and the labyrinth preserve memories of Cretan power and sophistication, though filtered through the perspective of later Greek storytellers who transformed historical realities into mythological narratives. Even Plato's story of Atlantis may contain echoes of Minoan civilization, an advanced island culture that suddenly vanished from history, leaving only legends of its former greatness. Modern research continues to refine our understanding of the Minoan collapse through new archaeological techniques and discoveries. Underwater archaeology reveals evidence of ancient tsunamis and climate change, while improved dating methods clarify the sequence of events that led to the civilization's end. Each new piece of evidence adds complexity to our understanding while deepening the mystery of how such a remarkable culture could vanish so completely. The lessons of Minoan decline resonate across history, reminding us that even the most sophisticated civilizations remain vulnerable to environmental changes, external pressures, and internal weaknesses. Their peaceful nature, which enabled centuries of cultural flowering, ultimately proved inadequate when confronted with violent neighbors and environmental stress. The tragedy is not just that they fell, but that their fall eliminated a unique model of human civilization based on beauty, diplomacy, and harmony rather than warfare and domination. Conservation efforts now focus on preserving the archaeological remains that tell the Minoan story, ensuring that future generations can continue studying this vanished civilization. The painted walls of Knossos, carefully restored and protected, still speak eloquently of human creativity and cultural achievement, even as they bear witness to the fragility of all human accomplishments. The interdisciplinary nature of Minoan studies demonstrates how archaeology, geology, climatology, and other sciences must work together to understand complex historical processes. The collapse of Minoan civilization involved environmental, political, economic, and social factors that interacted in ways that no single discipline can fully explain. This complexity reflects the interconnected nature of human societies and their relationships with natural environments. As we contemplate the ruins of this once great civilization, we see both human achievement and human vulnerability reflected in the same ancient stones. The beautiful frescoes that still grace palace walls speak of a people who found joy in art and harmony, while the broken pottery and burned timbers tell of dreams interrupted and ambitions unfulfilled. This duality, creation and destruction, hope and loss, represents the eternal human story written large in the archaeological record of ancient Crete. The peaceful darkness that settled over the Minoan palaces around 1450 BCE marked not just the end of Europe's first civilization, but the close of a unique experiment in human social organization. For over 1,000 years, the Minoans had demonstrated that sophisticated urban societies could flourish without massive military establishments or aggressive expansionism. Their collapse eliminated this alternative model of civilization, leaving warfare and conquest as the dominant themes of subsequent European history. Yet something of the Minoan spirit survived in the artistic traditions, architectural techniques, and cultural values that influenced later Greek civilization and, through it, the entire Western tradition. In our own time, as we face environmental challenges and social disruptions that echo those confronted by the ancient Minoans, their story offers both warning and inspiration. Warning about the fragility of human achievements, but inspiration about the heights of beauty and harmony that human societies can achieve when they choose cooperation over competition. As the eternal Mediterranean stars shine down upon the ancient stones of Crete, we reach the gentle conclusion of our journey through the world of the Minoans, a civilization that may have vanished from political maps for millennia ago, but whose spirit continues to inspire and influence human culture to this very day. Tonight, let your mind drift through the threads that connect these ancient people to our modern world. Threads woven from archaeological discovery, artistic inspiration, and the timeless human values they embodied. Close your eyes and feel the continuous flow of human creativity and wisdom that links the palace workshops of Bronze Age Crete to the museums, universities, and artistic studios where Minoan achievements continue to spark wonder and imagination. Picture yourself in a modern conservation laboratory where skilled technicians work with infinite patience to preserve the frescoes that still grace the walls of Knossos. Using techniques that Arthur Evans could never have imagined, laser cleaning, digital imaging, and molecular stabilization. These dedicated professionals ensure that the dancing dolphins and elegant court ladies will continue to inspire future generations. The same spirit of careful craftsmanship that motivated ancient Minoan artists now guides contemporary conservators who understand that they are guardians of irreplaceable human heritage. The influence of Minoan civilization on later Greek culture forms one of the most important aspects of their enduring legacy. When Mycenaean Greeks occupied Crete around 1450 BCE, they didn't simply replace Minoan culture but absorbed and transformed many of its elements. The classical Greek emphasis on beauty in daily life, the integration of art with architecture, and the celebration of human form and natural themes all show clear connections to Minoan precedents that were preserved through centuries of cultural evolution. Religious concepts that first appeared in Minoan Crete continued to influence Mediterranean spirituality throughout antiquity and beyond. The prominence of feminine divine power in Minoan religion found expression in later Greek goddesses like Athena, Artemis, and Demeter, while the integration of natural settings into religious practice influenced the sacred grove traditions that continued throughout the classical period. Even the labyrinth symbol, so central to later Greek mythology, preserves memories of the complex palace architecture that amazed ancient visitors to Knossos. Archaeological methodology itself owes significant debts to the pioneering work conducted at Minoan sites. Arthur Evans's systematic approach to excavation, documentation, and publication established standards that influenced archaeological practice throughout the Mediterranean. His careful recording of stratigraphic contexts, detailed drawings of artifacts, and comprehensive publication of results created models that continue to guide archaeological research today. The development of prehistoric archaeology as a scientific discipline was profoundly shaped by discoveries at Minoan sites. Before Evans uncovered the palaces of Crete, European prehistory was largely unknown territory. The revelation that sophisticated urban civilizations had flourished in Bronze Age Europe challenged existing assumptions about cultural development and established the theoretical frameworks that continue to guide prehistoric research throughout the world. Modern museum practices reflect lessons learned from Minoan discoveries about the importance of presenting ancient cultures in ways that respect both scholarly accuracy and public accessibility. The careful balance between preservation and presentation pioneered at sites like Knossos established principles that influence how archaeological sites worldwide are managed and interpreted for contemporary audiences. Artistic traditions that trace their origins to Minoan innovations continue to flourish in contemporary Crete and throughout the Mediterranean world. Modern Greek pottery still employs decorative techniques and natural motifs that echo Bronze Age precedents, while contemporary artists find continuing inspiration in the fluid lines, marine themes, and celebration of natural beauty that characterized Minoan aesthetic sensibilities. The peaceful values embodied in Minoan civilization offer alternative models for human social organization that remain relevant in our contemporary world. Their achievement of sophisticated urban life without massive military establishments or aggressive territorial expansion demonstrates that complex societies can be built on foundations of cooperation, trade, and cultural achievement rather than conquest and domination. Environmental archaeology, a field that has grown tremendously in recent decades, owes important early insights to research conducted at Minoan sites. The recognition that climate change, natural disasters, and environmental degradation played roles in the Minoan collapse helped establish the interdisciplinary approaches that now characterize archaeological research into past societies and their relationships with natural environments. Conservation science has been revolutionized by challenges encountered in preserving Minoan artifacts and architectural remains. The development of new techniques for stabilizing painted plaster, treating corroded metals, and protecting outdoor archaeological sites has applications far beyond Crete, influencing preservation efforts at archaeological sites throughout the world. Digital archaeology represents the latest chapter in the continuing study of Minoan civilization. Three-dimensional modeling, virtual reality reconstructions, and computerized analysis of artifact distributions provide new ways of understanding ancient sites and making them accessible to global audiences. These technologies ensure that Minoan achievements can be studied and appreciated by people who may never have the opportunity to visit Crete in person. Educational programs inspired by Minoan discoveries now introduce students worldwide to concepts of cultural diversity, environmental adaptation, and the complex relationships between human societies and their natural settings. The Minoan example demonstrates that there are many different ways to organize successful civilizations, challenging students to think critically about assumptions regarding progress, power, and social development. The ongoing mystery of Linear A continues to attract researchers who employ increasingly sophisticated computational methods in attempts to decipher Europe's earliest writing system. Whether or not these efforts ultimately succeed, the challenge of understanding Minoan texts has advanced our knowledge of ancient scripts, linguistic analysis, and the complex relationships between written and spoken languages in ancient civilizations. International collaboration in Minoan studies reflects the globalization of archaeological research while honoring the local communities that serve as guardians of these ancient sites. Greek archaeologists work with international teams to ensure that research benefits both global scholarship and local cultural preservation efforts, creating models for respectful archaeological practice in an interconnected world. Cultural tourism inspired by Minoan sites brings millions of visitors to Crete each year, providing economic benefits to local communities while creating opportunities for cultural education and cross-cultural understanding. The careful management of this tourism ensures that ancient sites remain preserved for future generations while serving their role as windows into humanity's shared cultural heritage. Contemporary architecture continues to find inspiration in Minoan innovations, particularly in the integration of interior and exterior spaces, the use of natural lighting, and the creation of built environments that enhance rather than dominate natural settings. Architects studying Minoan palaces discover principles of environmental design that remain relevant for sustainable construction in Mediterranean climates. The feminist movement has found particular inspiration in Minoan civilization's apparent recognition of feminine power and authority. The prominence of goddesses, priestesses, and female figures throughout Minoan art provides historical precedent for gender equality that challenges assumptions about patriarchal domination in ancient societies. Scientific analysis of Minoan artifacts contributes to broader understanding of ancient technologies, trade networks, and cultural exchange throughout the Bronze Age Mediterranean. Chemical analysis of pottery, metallurgical studies of bronze objects, and isotopic analysis of food remains provide insights that extend far beyond Crete to illuminate economic and cultural relationships throughout the ancient world. The story of Minoan rediscovery itself has become part of the broader narrative of how archaeological research expands human knowledge and cultural understanding. The transformation of mysterious myths into historical realities through careful scientific research demonstrates the power of systematic inquiry to recover lost chapters of human experience. Climate research conducted in the Eastern Mediterranean increasingly incorporates data from Minoan sites to understand long-term environmental changes and their impacts on human societies. This research provides crucial perspectives on contemporary climate challenges while demonstrating how ancient civilizations adapted to environmental stress and change. The preservation of Minoan sites for future research ensures that new technologies and analytical techniques will continue to reveal fresh insights about this remarkable civilization. Archaeological sites are non-renewable resources, and the careful stewardship of Minoan remains ensures that future generations of researchers will have opportunities to ask new questions and discover new aspects of ancient life. Literary and artistic works inspired by Minoan civilization continue to explore themes of lost wisdom, environmental harmony, and alternative social organizations that resonate with contemporary concerns. From scholarly works to popular fiction, from classical music to contemporary dance, Minoan themes provide rich sources of inspiration for creative expression that bridges ancient and modern sensibilities. The technological innovations pioneered in Minoan studies, from Evans's early photographic documentation to contemporary digital reconstruction, have applications throughout archaeology and cultural preservation. Methods developed for studying Minoan sites contribute to the global effort to understand, preserve, and share humanity's diverse cultural heritage. As we conclude our peaceful journey through the world of the Minoans, we see how their legacy extends far beyond the archaeological remains preserved on Crete. Their influence flows through the channels of human culture like underground streams, emerging in unexpected places to nourish contemporary understanding of art, society, and humanity's relationship with the natural world. The Minoans remind us that civilizations are remembered not just for their political power or military conquests, but for their contributions to human knowledge, artistic beauty, and cultural understanding. Their peaceful achievements continue to inspire because they demonstrate that human societies can be organized around principles of harmony, creativity, and mutual respect rather than domination and conflict. Let your mind rest in this vision of cultural continuity that connects ancient Crete to our contemporary world through the endless human search for beauty, meaning, and understanding. The gentle rhythms of Minoan life, their integration with natural cycles, their celebration of artistic creation, their commitment to peaceful prosperity, offer timeless wisdom for navigating the challenges and opportunities of any historical period. Feel the warm Mediterranean breeze that still carries the scent of wild herbs across Cretan hillsides. Hear the eternal rhythm of waves against ancient harbors where Minoan ships once departed for distant shores, and sense the profound human continuity that links their dreams and achievements to our own. In studying the Minoans, we discover not just an ancient civilization, but aspects of ourselves and our own potential for creating societies that honor both human creativity and natural harmony.